The most fun part of a video game or a movie or a story is the beginning. It's the most engaging part of a game of Civilization when you're getting your first few cities down, solidifying your borders. All your choices matter. There's so many different paths you could go. Your synapses are firing in your brain. It's like fucking crack rock. It's the best part of a superhero movie when the hero is learning about their powers, testing them out. 2008 Iron Man, the building of the suit is the best part of that whole movie. Or for a sports metaphor, the Chiefs' 2008 season had 2 wins, 14 losses in that season, hitting a 19-game losing streak. But then they turned it around and they made the playoffs 10 years in a row and won the Super Bowl 3 times in that span. Now you have people celebrating their downfall. What is it that makes us root for the underdog? Why don't we want to see a stomp, game after game?
Why does Ross, the largest friend, not simply eat the other 5?
Evolution, survival of the fittest, seems to go against this in our nature. Is this what separates us from the animals? I like Rome. I think about it from time to time.
Numerous pits and wooden beams were found in the excavations that are thought to have belonged to different lifting systems, which carried participants, wild animals.
My fascination with Rome doesn't come from an admiration of their culture or their warrior spirit or any of that crap. It's more disbelief. You're telling me Italians did this? Italy, we're talking about the same place here. But Rome, to me, becomes significantly less interesting at the end of the Republican era, and I think it has a lot to do with this. Rome, in this period, was the underdog. They managed to go from an unremarkable tribal settlement to the center of an empire of millions, spanning the entire Mediterranean. They were rocky. They went the distance. Well, Rocky 2, because, they kind of won. Imperial Rome is Rocky 3, probably. It's Rocky. Is Rocky 4 the Punic Wars? So, with that said, let's treat ourselves to a list of some of the adversity the Romans were up against. First things first, gotta throw off the yoke of the sultry, balmy, beautiful Etruscan monarchy. Then, immediately after, 6th century BC Rome has to fight off 2 city-states at the same time. They win, then a year later, another Etruscan city puts Rome under siege. Rome signs a peace treaty. A few years later, the neighboring Sabines declare war on Rome. Rome defeats them in a night battle. Another Sabine war a year later. We got Latin tribes beaten at the Battle of Lake Regillus. The One-Day War. Rome defeats the Sabines before word even reaches the city. The Battle of Mount Algidus. Cincinnatus goes back to farming cabbages. Then one of the 2 city-states from before, the Veii, declare war on Rome. Keep in mind, this shit is so small scale that the Veii fall almost entirely within the modern-day suburbs of the city of Rome. But they hand Rome a pretty rough victory this time, and a few years later the Romans lose at the Battle of Cremera, and then again immediately after, with the Veientes getting into the city itself before being finally repelled. Then the Veii and the Sabines join forces, and the Romans fucking beat them. 4th century BC, Battle of Veii, Rome wins. Then, in 390 BC, Rome is sacked by the Celts. They put up a good fight. They were allowed to pay their way out in gold, but the Romans were scarred. After this, they were never the same. The Volsci, the Equii, and our friends the Etruscans, taking advantage of a weakened Rome, attack. The Romans take them all out. War with the Tarquinii, Falerii, the Caere? First Samnite War, Latin War. Second Samnite War, 20 years, 24 hard-fought battles into the 3rd century BC. Romans win, but then the Samnites rebel. Third Samnite War, Gauls, Etruscans, Umbrii. This is the Roman Republic in 290 BC. That's it. And I probably missed some. I definitely missed some in there. That's how hard it was to claw your way out of obscurity and into the history books. These people had to kick and bite and scratch, grinding their way across the Italian peninsula. You just could not keep them down. Their manpower and dogged determination were unmatched. If you didn't sign a peace treaty admitting that you lost and the Romans were superior, then Rome didn't sign the damn treaty. Next, they would be attacked in the south by Pyrrhus of Epirus, by all accounts a great general. He handed Rome defeat after defeat, and Rome responded by raising army after army. Speaking of handing Rome defeat after defeat, you know what time it is. It's time for the Punic War!
You just give him one of these. Ooh, hey, ooh.
You want war elephants? We got them. Possibly the biggest naval battle in history? We got it. The Romans invented a bridge to put on their ships so they could take the land battle to the sea battle, and they kicked a naval power's ass. Hannibal's crossing of the Alps with elephants, his circumvallation of a numerically superior force, and a 16-year guerrilla war in the heart of Italy. Archimedes creating a giant crane that could pick up and smash Roman ships and light them on fire with a fucking heat ray. These were multi-generational conflicts between two democratic peoples. This was total war in the ancient world. In the First Punic War, Rome lost 17% of their adult male population dead, and almost the same figure in the second. Millions died. Everyone would have experienced personal loss. It wasn't until Rome found a guy who had actually even played Risk that they could get these guys, and even then in just a few generations they bounced back like nothing had happened. Rome was so traumatized by these people that they cooked up a bullshit reason for war, ignored the Carthaginians' desperate and genuine attempts to avoid it, and then burned their civilization to the ground so thoroughly. We only have secondary scraps of writing and a few stone scribbles to show for their centuries-long Mediterranean-spanning empire. But, you know,
I don't blame him. That guy kept fucking hitting him.
But the Romans weren't done. No, there was still free people to be conquered. People with the freedom to declare war on Rome. During the Punic Wars, Rome had already begun the conquest of the Iberian Peninsula and modern Greece, but with no further distractions, they absorbed them like an olive-skinned amoeba. Dalmatia came next, Illyria, Asia Minor, Africa, Egypt, Cappadocia. Rome was like a machine where you put in slaves and loot in one end and out comes legionaries and bathhouses. But then, inevitably, we come to Julius Caesar and his conquest of Gaul, and this is where the writers kind of lose me. I was with these guys, but now they're like the bullies. They're the uber dogs. Tacitus, a Roman of the Romans, put this monologue into the mouth of a Caledonian chieftain, having no way of knowing what the man might have actually said. Quote, "Robbers of the world, having by their universal plunder exhausted the land, they rifle the deep. If the enemy be rich, they are rapacious. If he be poor, they lust for dominion. Neither the east nor the west has been able to satisfy them. Alone among men they covet with equal eagerness poverty and riches. To robbery, slaughter, and plunder they give the lying name of empire. They make a wasteland and call it peace." Those are not the words of a man who believes he's on the right side of history. Those are the words of a man who's asked himself the question,
Are we the baddies?
after the Roman Republic, they spend more time fighting each other than actual existential threats. Their ambition, once their greatest asset, becomes their terminal flaw. It's also where Roman history gets a bit too textbookish for me, personally. You know, Caesar solved the fucking Rubik's Cube, Tiberius did this, Nero did nothing wrong. Not only is it more about individuals, emperors, and their personal ambitions than relatable common people, it's missing the spark that the Republican era had. All the civil wars, the assassinations, the crisis of the 3rd century, it's all so messy and unsatisfying. It's the part of Civ where you turn the game off because you've already done it. You've won in your mind. You've scratched the itch. Which leads us to the paradox that rooting for the underdog is. There's multiple possible answers for this. For one, the struggle against adversity is relatable, obviously, but no one wants to be Daniel-san polishing cars all night, and they don't want to be Rocky catching the fucking chicken.
What do I gotta chase a chicken for? It's embarrassing, you know?
I'm pretty sure everyone has said to themselves at one point, man, I wish I could snap my fingers and blank, you name it. Learn a language, have a tight ass and perfect tits. Wanting something without working for it is the most relatable thing in the world. So, relatability can't be 100% of the answer.
Don't try to stop me.
Another obvious one is that uncertainty is simply more interesting than knowing how something is going to turn out. When it's a foregone conclusion, But when you're watching a movie, you know how it's going to turn out, especially when you know how it ends. When you watch Die Hard for the 10th time, you know John McClane is going to kill all these Europeans, but does that make it any less exciting when he drops Alan Rickman from the window and you turn to your girlfriend and you say, hey babe, did you know they dropped Alan Rickman without him knowing? You know, like they were going to drop him on 3 and they dropped him on 1 or something, so his reaction here. So, I don't know, it's not entirely that either. You know what? Maybe this really is one of the things that makes us human. Looking at examples from the animal kingdom, if you're a bird lacking sufficiently lustrous plumage, good fucking luck.
The trees here are in misery and the birds are in misery. I don't think they sing, they just screech in pain.
Nature doesn't give a tinker's damn about a creature overcoming adversity. The world is filled with incel birds. The impulse to help those in need and to take from those with too much, a manifestation of an innate, inborn sense of justice, exists in all humans. But that's not completely true either, because chimpanzees, whales, dolphins, even fucking rodents have displayed sympathy in both laboratory environments and in the wild. This isn't what makes us human at all. All the animals I listed are social creatures, meaning they have to work together to survive, but these animals are not at the top of the food chain like us. They don't work together because they're nice. They do it so they don't go extinct. But when Rome became the apex predator, when they removed themselves from the food chain, so to speak, we see them infighting. They stop working together. Once they lost a common enemy, they turned against each other, and in the time it took them to win their empire, it was gone. I admit, it is hard to watch them slowly disappear from the map. You go far enough in the future and they get it back. They become the underdog again, but it's too late. Even those wine-loving Phil Helene cosplayers in the East, watching them get pushed back to a single city, seeing them gain back territory only to lose it again and then some, spending their last bursts of energy, it's tough. It's a fleeting thing, underdog status, undefinable. Humans are selfish. The prisoner's dilemma, a famous example of cooperation, actually suggests betrayal as the mathematically correct option, yet it feels wrong. We're a naive species, full of contradictions. We dream, we hope, we build monuments, offer lavish sacrifices while others starve. We pray to the gods to destroy our enemies while our enemies do the same. It's honestly a miracle the Roman Empire lasted as long as it did. It was a millennia-long assembly line of selfish, short-sighted, hairless apes trying their best. No grand strategy, just millions of individuals trying to achieve their personal goals. For the aristocracy, it was to outdo their ancestors, to write their name in history, and through that, live forever. But for the vast, vast majority, it was more about achieving just some level of comfort and stability in their lives. We're all our own underdog in a way, the platonic, prototypical infradog. For the people in it, Rome was the underdog. For others, it was the Goths and Visigoths that toppled them, and later the Ottomans, who rose from similar anonymity to become one of Rome's most convincing successors. History is an Ouroboros of dogs eating dogs. It's underdogs all the way down. Wolves, a social species, are not thinking about how much of an underdog the fawn they just ripped apart was, because they can't. If they did, they wouldn't survive. Why do we root for the underdog? It's because if we didn't, as a species, as a society, we wouldn't be here to ask the question.